Welcome back to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm John Delano. As we head into 2020, we have had more than 10 years of economic expansion. That's good news, especially for people looking to build new things in Pittsburgh. We've got some big projects in store, both inside and outside of the city. And the name of the game is mixed-use developments that combine new homes, new retail, and new offices. Our guests this morning are on top of the Pittsburgh real estate scene. Herky Pollock is the Executive Vice President of CBRE, and Todd Reedboard is President of Walnut Capital. I'm once again joined alongside by Jerry Micco of the Post-Gazette. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
You know, everywhere we turn in Pittsburgh, there's something under construction, and that's a good thing. And I'll just begin with the Strip District, because it seems to me every time I drive down to some of my favorite haunts in the Strip, I'm seeing something new going up. Was 2019 a pretty extraordinary year, Herky, for real estate development?
It is. I think 2019 was a new level of growth for Pennsylvania and Western PA, and especially for Pittsburgh. What we're seeing now are all the high-tech companies moving into the Strip District, and that's causing tremendous growth. One thing we learned last year, in the last 3 years, is that we've created 20,000 new office jobs per year for the last 3 years, and hopefully on into the future.
20,000?
20,000 office new jobs in the urban core in the city of Pittsburgh. And there's an urbanization going on. So people are moving from the periphery down to the Strip. And our definition of the downtown Pittsburgh is growing well beyond its traditional CBD district.
Well, you know, residential, Todd, in the Strip seems to be really big, along with everything else.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen this new flourish of urbanism where people want to come from suburban neighborhoods to the city with all the great amenities and the diversity that we have within our city. It's one of the things that Pittsburgh has that a lot of other cities don't have. It's these great neighborhoods. We've seen a tremendous expansion, not only in the Strip, but the East End neighborhoods as well. It seems like that's where people want to be.
Well, let me ask you about 2020 as we move forward. What do you think are some of the significant, Todd, we'll start with you, some of the significant developments going up in 2020?
Sure. We see continued growth in Oakland and the East End communities around our great universities and medical centers. We still think that's the tremendous growth engine in Pittsburgh with Carnegie Mellon, University of Pittsburgh, UPMC, particularly in a lot of the AI and machine learning and artificial intelligence things. We see this great window of opportunity for companies that want to be in Pittsburgh. So we see tremendous growth around the universities, and that's not just in Oakland, but in the surrounding communities.
How about you, Herky?
It's interesting. Downtown is obviously robust, but the North Shore, the Steelers, Continental, and the Pirates just added another development. They have 2 more coming down the pike the next 2 years. Station Square is being redeveloped. Southside Works is being redeveloped. The Strip District is booming. The 28 acres around the arena is being developed as we speak. So 2020 will be the single biggest year in Pittsburgh development in my lifetime, and I think going forward we'll see even more development on the horizon.
2020, the single biggest year in development?
If you think about what's going on right now, it's meteoric, the rise that we've seen in Pittsburgh. And if you layer on the cracker plant out in Monaca and the airport coming online, all developments going on the east side and East Liberty, that's going, there's 4 or 5 new major developments coming on East Liberty. Todd's company is doing several in Oakland. Lexington Technology and near Wilkinsburg is occurring. One block after the next. And then you talk about Lawrenceville and Garfield. Those areas are booming as well. So there's so much going on. We could talk for hours about the growth and development in Pittsburgh right now.
One of the things you mentioned, and of course the core areas you talked about, you see significant growth. But I'm interested in the airport and what's going on out there with Amazon going to put in, was it 100,000 square feet? What about outside of the city, and as you look around in Allegheny County or even up to Beaver County where the cracker plant is, what do you see there for 2020 and beyond?
Well, again, I think that the growth helps growth. So as companies come and locate within the city, they also need some of their periphery facilities and other opportunities within the greater Pittsburgh community in Western Pennsylvania. So you see with Amazon, you see with Uber, with their test track, it just creates great opportunities not only within the city, but within the surrounding communities. The multiplier effect of all these great technology and medical related jobs benefits the whole region. So that's what we see.
On top of that, Pittsburgh's brand has been transformed. We're now a great place for development to occur. I get called daily and weekly from investors and institutional owners to come into Pittsburgh and develop. If you look at what's going on in the malls, Simon is going to spend $250 million renovating and redeveloping South Hills Village and Ross Park Mall. We have the Cracker Plan. We have the airport. All the development around Robinson Township that's going on right now. Literally, there isn't a part of Pittsburgh that isn't benefiting from the meteoric rise that Pittsburgh's experienced with our brand and our national acclaim.
And let me come back to what that means for us locally, which is jobs. Because whether it's construction jobs or jobs in offices or retail or whatever, it matters that we're growing and developing. Is there anything that government could do better to keep promoting this kind of activity in Pittsburgh? Or are we doing the right things?
Well, I always say we're halfway there. I think government has done a great job to get us where we are today, but we're not done. We need to grow our population and continue to create economic vitality so that our region can continue to grow and prosper. So I think that a lot of the great things that we've invested in the infrastructure, in cleaning up our air and our schools, we need to continue to do. So I think that government plays a huge role in that. And I think we have a good team in place, but we need to realize that we can't just stand on our laurels. We have to continue to improve.
Yeah. The other thing to piggyback off of that is many of the major developments you're seeing in downtown, the Strip District, the North Shore, and all around would not occur without a great public-private partnership, whether that's for funding from state monies, county monies, local monies, or infrastructure to simply allow the roads and all the mechanicals to occur. So without the development of a public-private partnership, we're not going to see the kind of growth we've seen over the last 10 years. And there's a lot more coming. It has to sustain itself, though.
You know, last Thursday when Rich Fitzgerald took the oath of office for his third term, he noted, both in his remarks and then in my interview with him, that the number one concern that he has going forward is transportation. One of the concerns he has, because we are on so many wonderful top 10 lists, but we're also on a top 10 list for having the most congested highways, and he pointed to Parkway East and Parkway West. Is that an inhibitor to development, transportation needs?
I think it can be. I mean, I think that we're still, I always laugh because when you go to Boston, Washington, D.C., New York, right, we're nowhere near the congestion and activity they have there. So it's all on a relative basis. But I think it is an impediment, and I think we continue to need to invest in our infrastructure. I'm not in favor necessarily of building new roads and widening things. I'm not sure that works here in Pittsburgh as it might in Texas and other places. But I think investing in public transportation, the BRT is a critical aspect of that, and investing in smart transportation so that we can move people more efficiently through our cities. I think that's what people want.
I'm of a different opinion. I actually think that the urbanization that's going on in Pittsburgh requires us to have less transportation in terms of our own personal vehicles. Companies like Giant Eagle, for example, who have had their headquarters for 75 years out in the RITC Park O'Hare, are now moving into the city. There's a lot of people moving into the urban core. Myself, we just bought a condominium, my wife and I, in downtown Pittsburgh. We're not going to need to have as many cars as we did living outside the city. So the urbanization that's going on, the campus-like setting that's going on, I think spawns people thinking differently, acting differently, and certainly transportation is a very big component of that.
You talk about the public-private partnership and its importance. How about nonprofits? They're involved too. And so as far as being on boards or on committees, they also, for the Strip District too. So
totally, we're very lucky that Pittsburgh's the second largest philanthropic giving city in America, and there's always been that way. So the corporations and the foundations and the nonprofits working in conjunction with the regular developers and the regular community have certainly created a great environment for development.
And also, I think it's a huge benefit, sort of our quality of life that we have based on our legacy foundations in the cultural arts and the cultural district. I mean, it's something that separates us from a lot of other cities of our similar size, that we have these great legacy organizations in the theater and the symphonies and the ballet that really help us when we're attracting new talent. I mean, when these tech companies look for where they want to locate, they take a scorecard and they say, what are the great amenities that you have? You know, transportation, cost of living, quality of air, schools are important, but also the cultural activities, not just sports, but cultural and other activities are very important.
We only have a minute or so left, so let me give each of you an opportunity to tell us what you think is the most important project you're working on in 2020, things that you care about.
Sure.
Or if you see others doing things, let us know. You can share that too.
Yeah, we're huge believers at Walnut Capital in the Brookings Institution study that showed how the growth potentials in Oakland around our great universities and medical centers. So we'll be starting on a large 280,000 square foot office tower that will be available for companies that want to locate close to the universities and the medical centers that can look for biomedical research and other things.
Where's that going to be?
At 5th and Halkett in Oakland,
sure.
where we're ready to get started here shortly. We think that's the sleeping giant, particularly with the University of Pittsburgh and UPMC, bringing corporate partnerships to our city. Carnegie Mellon's done a great job on the tech side, but we think the universities under Chancellor Gallagher is really pushing that, can be the great next growth opportunity in our
Ricky,
city.
how about for you at CBRE?
Mine's urbanization. So again, I'm working with the Steelers, the Pirates, and Continental on 2 new projects going forward in the North Shore, working with Brookfield on the redevelopment of Station Square.
Where on the North Shore specifically?
Between the 2 stadiums, right across from the new SAP building.
One of the parking lots.
Correct. And then working with Brookfield on the repositioning and redevelopment of Station Square, then working on the redevelopment of Southside Works. So I think those 3 urban developments will really transform Pittsburgh going forward.
Well, certainly Station Square and the Southside Works, both those areas need a little help.
They do, but it's been here for a long time. They have great brands, and I think with a little bit of TLC, we'll be in good shape.
Well, gentlemen, there's nothing in Pittsburgh that happens on a real estate level that you two don't know about. Thank you for sharing with us and our audience today. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a moment when the KDPG Sunday edition continues. Stick with us.